you for that generous introduction, Ariana. Because the Bible is often used to harm transgender people, I was prompted to take a closer look at it. Abomination. The Hebrew Bible prohibits wearing the clothes of the other sex, and in Deuteronomy 22.5 says doing so is an abomination. This prohibition spread to Christianity and Islam, and through their invasions to many other lands and cultures. The abomination word was chosen to translate the Hebrew Bible word to'ibah. Since our haters feel violators should be punished with death, it seems odd that God called it a to'ibah, an abomination, and not an avera, a sin in Hebrew. As I studied chapter 22 of the book of Deuteronomy, I wondered why the wearing of the other sex's clothes is between 4 verses of hiding from your neighbor to avoid helping him, and 2 verses dealing with the handling of a fallen bird's nest, followed by 23 verses of relations with your neighbor's damsels and your wife. Deuteronomy chapter 22 is devoted exclusively to human relations, except for verses 5, 6, and 7. Verses 5, 6, and 7, the clothes and bird's nest reference, seems to be an anomaly, unless they are also related to human relations. Verse 5 might continue the theme of all previous verses and refer to wearing the other sex's clothes as a disguise, to hide from your neighbor to avoid helping him. But how is a bird's nest related to human relations, like the rest of chapter 22? Could the fallen bird's nest represent a destroyed home and the contents, homeless infants, that you should take care of? Although wearing inappropriate clothes as a disguise has some merit, the bird's nest thought must be a little far-fetched, even though the following verse 8 mentions building a home. Yes, although misplaced, verses 5, 6, and 7 must say what they mean. Don't wear the clothes of the other sex, and how to handle a fallen bird's nest, period. Transgender people know they shouldn't wear the clothes of the other sex, yet we are mysteriously driven to do so. I know a Jewish Orthodox transgender woman in this community who is tormented by the word abomination because an inner force drives her to cross-dress in opposition to her deep-seated religious beliefs. That mysterious inner force is so powerful and so near impossible to resist that it must be God's will. I'm convinced transgender children are born with a second sex inside them. And that's why they have an irresistible drive to dress like their inner, their true sex. One transgender girl said, "When my father caught me with nail polish, he said if I did it again, he'd send me to school dressed as a girl." I was such a dumb kid. My one chance and I blew it. I'm also convinced that we are born knowing our true sex because of so many observations of intersex children and boys born with a penile deformity. Their genitals were surgically made to look like girls because boys' genitalia is not surgically simulated. They were raised as girls, never told of the birth problem, yet eventually demand that they are male. The mystery is compounded when you listen to transgender kids relate their early experiences and thoughts. You learn they started life believing they are not the sex people assumed they were at birth. One transgender boy, that is born a genetic girl, said, "I recall as a very small child looking in the mirror at my butt-length hair and wondering why none of the other boys had long hair like me." A transgender girl said, "I know I thought I'd be getting breasts as all the girls around me. How devastated I was when I did not. What was wrong? Why did they get them and I did not?" Most children intuitively know their own true sex. A born girl related, "Mom, Dad, there's a man inside me." Transgender people always talk about the woman or the man inside them. Clearly, we have two sexes. One the doctor saw when we were born, and the other we always knew we had inside us. Which of our two sexes do you think God was talking about? Let's turn to God's Word, the Bible again, to get the official answer. I remember something Samuel said. Oh, not to me personally. I'm not that old in spite of the rumors. Especially since I started lying about my age. I didn't hear it, I read it. It's written in the Bible, of course. To quote Samuel, "Man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." The King James Bible says something very similar. John says that Jesus commands you to look beneath the surface so you can judge man correctly. It's obvious. It needs no interpretation. It's written in black and white. God was talking about the sex beneath the surface and the one inside our heart. It's the one God sees and judges us by, and so should his followers, his believers. You mortals who want to punish us, take heed. We transgender people are obeying Deuteronomy 22.5. We dress as women because that is what our heart says we are. We are not men. Therefore we stop wearing the clothes that pertaineth unto a man. Those you call women because you can only see the surface, dress as men because that is what they are inside, beneath the surface. Thus they stop putting on a woman's garment. The prevailing consensus may not approve of us yet, but that consensus is wrong. I remember in a math class in high school, every student had the same answer to a problem except me. I insisted on a different answer and stood my ground. The teacher, in an effort to end the dispute, worked the problem out on the board. He was going to prove to me that the consensus was correct, and found the consensus was incorrect. The consensus is not always right. It's never easy to stand fast against the consensus, as we transgender people can testify, but I turned out to be correct. Similarly, I am sure God is not influenced by consensus. He sees the correctness of transgender people regarding Deuteronomy 22.5. He is the mysterious inner force that is so powerful we always fail in our struggle against it. He judges us by what is in our heart and not our outward appearance. He is the power that literally forces us to pursue our true gender. He relentlessly drives us to wear clothes that are appropriate for our gender, our inner gender, our true gender. I'm sure God looks at our determination to stand fast and obey his written word in spite of discrimination. and as this Transgender Day of Remembrance demonstrates too often martyrdom. He sees our adherence to Deuteronomy 22.5 with approval and blesses all transgender people for standing